Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast with your host, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Cody Jansen, and welcome to a monumental episode of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, episode 14, brought to you by CST Tires with legendary guest, Digger Doug Gust. It's finally here, the episode you've all been waiting for. Doug Gust is undoubtedly one of the greatest ATV racers of all time, and as a Wisconsin kid, he's been my all-time favorite rider and idol since day one. So needless to say, this is very special for me. You guys asked for a bunch of topics and we delivered. I think we covered it all, so really excited and proud to bring this kind of content to the sport. You have to remember, up until the decade that just ended, Doug Gust had been part of every era of ATV racing to this point. From the Denton era through the hybrid era to dominating on a Z400 to developing the LTR and through the end of his career. We talk about how tough it was to finally walk away, get to the bottom of the Larocco's leap myth, talk about his relationship with Joe Bird, and so much more. So get ready. We have to thank our sponsors, including new show sponsor, Yamaha. We are proud to be partnered with the winningest manufacturer of the past decade in ATV motocross and the number one OEM supporter of ATV racing. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is Team Blue Crew. Thank you, Yamaha, and check them out at YamahaOutdoors.com today. Thanks to another new sponsor, but longtime sponsor of me personally, Valvoline. For over 150 years, Valvoline has been dedicated to innovating and improving your driving and riding experience. The world's oldest oil company still leads the charge with unrivaled products and lubricants. Thanks to Team Valvoline for coming on board. Thanks to our title sponsor, CST Tires, CSTTires.com. The Pulse MXR tire is the best tire on the market, no matter what the terrain. Join the CST takeover today or prepare to be beat by someone who did. CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. Thanks to SSI Decals. SSI Decals was a key contributor to Team USA's winning efforts at the Quad Cross of Nations and, simply put, is the decal choice of champions everywhere. Their track record speaks for itself. Champions choose SSI Decals for unmatched look and function. Thanks to those guys, and check them out today at SSIDecals.com. Thank you DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 X-Ring chain. Team USA, Joel Hetrick, and myself all trusted DID's unrivaled chain quality and rivet clip all the way to championship victory this past season. Wherever you go, go with DID. Thank you Namura Technologies. Namura, pistons with an attitude. Namura has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market since 2001 with their wide array of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits. Visit your local dealer or online at Namura, that's Namura.com, Namura.com. Also a big thanks to Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been the industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. Whether it's electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, suspension parts, or bearing kits, Bronco is your hard parts source when it comes to whatever you need for whatever you ride. BroncoATV.com. Thank you to Forworks Carbon for the continued support. Known for their hoods, seat covers, array of carbon parts, and so much more, Forworks is your one-stop shop to give your ATV a new and improved look with increased function for 2020. New year, new look with Forworks Carbon. Head over to their social media pages or website today, thanks to Forworks Carbon. Thanks as always to Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant. Upgrade to Evans now to avoid overheating and boil over next time you hit the racetrack. When conditions are at their worst, Evans is at its best. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 to save at checkout, evanscoolant.com. Thanks to DP Brakes, the unquestioned leader in motorsports and powersports braking. DP is the brand responsible for allowing Joel Hetrick, myself, and so many others to outbrake the competition every time we hit the racetrack. It's not too late to join the team, so act fast. dp-brakes.com. Thanks to Blenders Eyewear, whose Life and Forward Motion brand is the perfect fit to partner with our podcast. You won't find better shades for a more attractive price anywhere else. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 to save on the trendiest shades on the market, blenderseyewear.com. Thanks to Oats Overnight. Life is hard. Make breakfast easy. Simply combine with milk before bed and enjoy your to-go breakfast in the morning. Overnight oatmeal loaded with superfoods, perfect for athletes. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout, oatsovernight.com. Thank you, Mountaineer Brand. If you know me, you know I love my beard. That's why I treat it right with Mountaineer Brand's all-natural washes, oils, balms, and more. Use discount code CODY'sFave in all caps. That's CODYSFAV, Cody's Fave in all caps at mountaineerbrand.com. From our new partners to our original sponsors, thanks for your support of this podcast and making this dream a reality for both us and our listeners. We pride ourselves in partnering with only the best brands in the industry, so better your riding experience and your lifestyle by supporting the sponsors who support us. If you love the show, the best thing you can do is support our partners. If you're interested in becoming a partner of the show, shoot me a message or email today for more details. Once again, thanks to all of our sponsors. Okay, Evans Waterless Powersports Coolant Sight Lap segment, and this is where we do a quick rundown before the gate drops on this episode's featured guest. This week-ish in ATV racing, Jeffrey Rastrelli got married, so congrats to newly married Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey Rastrelli, friend of mine and upcoming guest on the podcast. Oh yeah, and he also announced that he'll be riding for Phoenix Racing Honda next year alongside teammate and defending champion Joel Hetrick. So we're pumped to get Jeffrey on to talk about all the exciting things happening in his life, both on and off the track. All right, guys, quickly, we're going to try something new here. A quick product review for your benefit. Now, no one wants to drop $500 or $600 on a set of boots, but you might not have to. Introducing the new mid-level Radial MX boot from Thor. I've R&D tested this mid-level boot myself, and after 3 years in the making, it wasn't long after I slipped the boot on that I quickly believed the hype. The Thor Radial is redefining expectations by offering a top-tier boot at a mid-level price point, which, for those of you who don't know, that means in that $250-ish price range. The boot has a pivoting access for increased support, a fully synthetic burn guard for premium durability and optimal grip, secure, easy-to-use buckles, and a replaceable sole. The Radial MX boot from Thor, the best looking and functioning mid-level boot on the market, offers comfort, flexibility, and a good fit at an unprecedented price. You're welcome. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, enjoy. And now, it's an absolute honor to welcome to the show, brought to you by DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 X-Ring chain, multi-time Pro Class National Champion, WPSA Super Quad Pro 450 Champion, and overall living legend, one of the greatest ATV racers of all time. We proudly welcome Digger Doug Gust to the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. What's up, Digger? How are you? It's so great to have you join us on the show.
Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was just saying to you, man, it's an absolute honor. People are pumped to hear from you. And for a little context for our listeners here, I ran into Doug at the ATV motocross season finale at Crawfordsville there, and I kind of mentioned, I tried to plant the seed early, like, we got to get you on the show. And ever since then, we're probably 4+ months later now, but I've been anxiously waiting for this interview. And ever since we kind of announced we were going to do it, our listeners have been blowing up our social media and stuff, waiting for you to come on. So yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited too. It's been a long time, and that was really great seeing you there at the Ironman there, and it was awesome to see them guys really sending it. Let me tell you, them guys were getting some air there.
Yeah, for sure. And I was telling my brother Dallas, my producer here sitting next to me, just how exciting all of this is for me, because you're one of my favorites ever, including obviously so many fans too. But then for you, I was telling Dallas, it's been a decade since you've been kind of on the racing scene full time. So it's going to be exciting for you to kind of relive a lot of that stuff too. So yeah, I mean,
I guess it's been a long time. Holy cow, you blink your eyes and boom, 10 years goes by.
Oh, it's unreal. So yeah, Doug, I kind of want to hear your complete racing story here. So I guess to take it right from the top, take us back to your childhood and like when you started riding.
Well, I started when I was 14 on a on a GT80, a Yamaha GT80 dirt bike. My parents didn't want me to race. They told me I couldn't do it. So I just had a little enduro bike to ride around on, and then I met a friend of mine, long lifetime friend, still friends with him, Cliff Cam. He's father to Cody Cam, who's a snowcross champ.
Yep.
He was racing motocross, and I wanted to do it bad. So I ended up sneaking with him and his parents when I was probably 15, 16. And I started racing a YZ80 then. I got a YZ80 and was racing that for a bit. And I had a neighbor that had a three-wheeler, a 110 three-wheeler, Honda 110. And boy, they were fun to ride in the winter because obviously up here in the Midwest, we get snow in the winter and you can't ride dirt bikes all year around. But the three-wheeler you could. So I transitioned over and I ended up buying a 200X three-wheeler and started playing around in that. And then I became 18. I could do what I wanted, obviously. So I started racing the three-wheeler and went on to get a 250R three-wheeler and raced that for a bit. And then, it had to be like 87 or 86. They started, four-wheelers became really popular and three-wheelers were on their way out. And so I made the transition. And I can remember I bought a 87 Suzuki LT 250. That was my first quad.
Okay.
And I wanted to go pro. That was my dream. Like, I'm going pro. And I was doing better on the four-wheelers, obviously, than I was the dirt bike. I tried to run some races on the dirt bike, but was always mid-pack guy. And I just excelled on the four-wheelers when I got on them. I did on the three-wheelers too. I was doing really well on the three-wheelers, but four-wheelers come along and I got an LT 250 and loaded it in the back of my Toyota pickup truck and went out to California one winter and said, I'm going pro.
Really?
Yeah, I went out there and it didn't turn out too good. I ran one race at Carlsbad.
Okay.
And of course, you know me, I was stock. I think I had rear tires on it. And I had a Bill's pipe. And that was it. But my dream ended real quick. I ended up one morning coming back to the truck after sleeping in a motel and it was gone. Four-wheeler truck, everything gone.
Oh no.
Yep. So I went back home and had to take a commercial flight, which I'd never flown before, and went home and started working again and saving up money. And then I bought a Honda and I got 250R and then I started racing that. I have to backtrack. I guess I did race a couple nationals on the Suzuki before I went out to California. I did some Loretta Lynn's. Okay, and, so I think I ran the A class then.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is if you raced any classes before just going right to pro? So
nope, yep, I did. I raced A class, and I believe it was an 87. Suzuki. And then I bought the brand new 88 and I went out to California and got it stolen. So been so long, I don't remember.
So yeah, well, I think it's cool too, because there's going to be everybody hasn't going to have heard these stories. So that's the cool part about it. But so after that happened, did you ever question, doing the whole thing again after you got this four-wheeler stolen, or was that dream still that your dream and you never wavered from it?
It still was my dream, but it sure put a burden on it, and it took the wind out of my sail a lot. But I regrouped and saved up some money. Insurance wouldn't cover the four-wheeler on the back at the time because the car insurance says you have to have that covered under your homeowners, and homeowner says, I should have been covered under a car. And I went back and forth, but long story short, I lost it. I didn't get paid for the four-wheeler, and I had all my tools and gear, and I had everything.
Of course, yeah, of course. So, the other thing too, I guess my question, referencing back then, is what was the local racing scene like? You're in southern Wisconsin, so I don't know what that racing scene was like there. Was nationals kind of your only option, or how was that?
No, we actually had a local track here called Lake Geneva Raceway that I went to on Friday nights. They would do Friday night like stadium cross races, and I would go there a lot. I raced every Friday night that they were open, probably from May, through September. And they had a pretty cool, but it was more stadium cross track. And I raced both the dirt bike, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler. I tried to race it all while I was there. So But I wanted to move on to bigger and better things. My uncle took me out to Redbud once, and I got to watch the pro dirt bikes go. And Bob Hanna was my legend then, a hero. And that's what got me wanting to do the nationals.
I see. So, and that was literally my next question I kind of had in mind, was anybody you looked up to. So if it was Bob Hanna on a bike, did you have guys that you looked up to then on 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers too?
Yes, I did. Well, when I did race 3-wheelers, I did go to a national in Tipton, Iowa, I remember. And Jimmy White, Marty Hart, Mike Cole, I think Dean Sundell was in then too. There was some of them guys, they were awesome. And they were factory riders then.
Of course, yeah, they were. Sure.
Yep. Team Kawasaki, of course, Jimmy White, and Marty Hart, Team Honda. So it was awesome.
I think, and they were, the funny thing is too, is like, they were superstars of the whole industry back then. It wasn't just 3-wheelers, like even, dirt bike guys, industry guys now still today, like Jimmy White was their hero back then. It's just, it's crazy,
Yes. Yeah. And I got all their autographs then, I remember, and everything. And it wasn't but a few years later, I started racing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So now you're talking. So I guess at what point did you get back to being like a full-time pro? Like when did you start chasing the whole series? Because, that would be, I guess, beginning of the 90s, right? And you didn't, take me kind of through the 90s, I guess.
I'll backtrack back a little bit.
Okay,
after 87, running down at Loretta Lynn's, and then in 88, I bought that new Suzuki and went out to California. And that was January because they were running a winter series. And I forget exactly what it was called, but Carlsbad, California was one of the racetracks we went to. And I got everything stolen. And then it took me most of the summer to save up to get another one. And I got a Honda, and it was an 89 then, obviously. And I went down to Texas and I ran the Texas arena crosses in the winter.
Okay.
And I also raced them on a bike. I had a Honda 250, CR 250, and I would race the pro class on a bike and the pro on the 4-wheeler. Well, the 4-wheeler, I obviously won it. I won the whole 89 Texas arena cross champion. But the dirt bike, I could qualify in the pro class, but I'd be lucky. I think they took 14 or 15 to the main event because them were arena cross races, and I would get 12th, or 11th. I barely would make it. I wasn't a top 10 rider. And there was some top guys like Guy Cooper, who used to ride dirt bikes, was a top pro. Dennis Hawthorne, factory Kawasaki, and I was racing them guys.
So all those guys from that area, the Oklahoma, Texas area down there.
Yes.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't heard of them guys, but I'm glad you know who they are because that was their area.
Of course. Yeah. So
then, that was then 89. And then the next year, I believe it was 90, I ran Loretta Lynn's, and they really got a bad rain. So the main track was flooded, and that was when Davey Coombs was still alive, and he designed a track up on the hill, on the side hill, away from that lower part of the track. And all he did is kind of bandered off in the woods, threw around, and we ran only the pro class did. The amateurs didn't want to do it.
Okay.
And that was when Gary Denton, Barry McCarty, John Hemme, all them guys were running then. And I ended up stock tires and all on a 250R. And that was really my first memorable pro race, outdoor national. I ended up pulling whole shot and leading for a while. I led that race for quite a while, and then I got tired.
Okay. Yeah.
But so I ended up finishing fourth my first pro race there.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then I started getting some sponsors.
Uh-huh.
And things started progressing from there. And, the 90s was pretty bad, the early 90s, because all the factories got out of it then.
Yep.
Things were pretty slow. We were just getting outside sponsors, tire, helmets, goggles, whatever we could, oil. And I think it was probably it was around 95, 96. Nax Racing used to be a big deal then, and they picked me up and started sponsoring me. To me it was a factory ride because we were a satellite team. There was no factories, but they had a rig they brought to the race as mechanic, bike all ready to go.
Yep.
And that was when Tom Carlson from TC
Yep.
Racing, and John Lawson was the driver, and he helped out. Boy, that was a heck of a team back then.
In some of those ATVs that you had back then with the big Nax on the side of it, like they're iconic, so
Yeah.
You don't got to tell me. I mean, I think I could, like, those pictures are burned in my memory, but that seemed like that's when ATV racing really started to, that second half of the 90s, I guess it started to pick up. And,
yes.
And, that was the GNC days, right, too. So that was
Correct.
MX and TT at the time. And, so I guess, like, was that, because some of my listeners aren't going to be super familiar. So was that something that you enjoyed? Did you like doing both, the TT and MX, or kind of take me through that? Because I never thought of you as a necessarily a TT guy. There was some TT specialists, and you were just strong at it all, I guess.
Yeah, TT was not my specialty, and to be honest with you, I didn't like it. It was because it was more set up, and I'd like to ride more on the rider, not set up. And motocross, I could excel because it was more the rider. But TT, boy, I mean, you have, don't get me wrong, you got to be good, but you have to have your quad set up for the conditions, And I struggled with TT, and there was a lot of years that I had won the motocross championship, but didn't gain enough points in the TT to be the overall GNC winner,
Right. Yeah.
Champion,
I thought so because, and it's funny because sometimes it's hard to track some of those stats nowadays. Cause they just, like, a lot of times you'll just see that overall winner, listed, but yeah, you were the motocross guy. And then there were some guys that stood out on the TT and you just didn't happen to do that.
Shane Hitt, he was an awesome TT rider. Tim Farr was too. I mean, there was a few of them guys that really excelled in the TT, and I started figuring it out towards the end. And I believe in 99, when I won the whole championship, that was the first whole championship I won.
Yep.
That's when I think it was not long after that they quit. They separated it.
You're exactly right. Yep, you're exactly right, because that was what I have written down here. You grabbed your first championship in 99, and I was going to ask you, what stands out about that year as far as what helped you get over the hump? Was it kind of putting everything together with those TT races, or?
Yeah, that's what did it, because there was a lot of other years that if not, I mean, I know I won the motocross championship in 95, and there might have been another year, but I was always first or second in the motocross, but fifth, sixth, seventh in the TTs,
Exactly.
It was tough. And that year, 99, we really spent some time, I practiced TT. We went to some tracks, and that was the John Lawson, Tom Carlson, Nax days, and them guys really put a lot of effort. And I was blessed that them guys, stuck it into me and believed in me, and so it all paid off that year.
It's kind of crazy too, because when you think about all that changed from like that decade, from the beginning of the 90s to the end of the 90s, the landscape of ATV motocross, or maybe just motorsports in general, but was so different that you were like, to think that you were able to stay in it for that long and grow as a rider for that long. It's kind of crazy, because not that many people did it,
Right. Yeah, it was tough. And I mean, we weren't making enough money to make a living at it. I had another job, and, I actually started my own business during that, excavating business. That's where the name Digger come along.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I had a lot of struggles in the 90s. In the mid 90s, I had a really bad accident, and I forget if it was 95 or 96, but it was the same year Joe Bird got hurt bad too. We, same track at Muddy Creek. I cased the jump, and we were running backwards that day, I remember, and I cased, it was a tabletop into a single, because obviously when it ran the other way, it was a single into a tabletop. So I got the bright idea. I could hit the tabletop and clear the single afterwards. And I did it. I did it a few times, but one lap, I didn't make it, and woke up in an ambulance, broke my back, both my heels, AC separation in my shoulder. I was ribs. I was messed up. That was, I spent a couple weeks in hospital.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that was bad. And my mother has a note. She still has it framed from me. I signed when I was in the hospital, said I would never race again.
Well, thank God you didn't give it up then, because
right.
all the best days were ahead of you at that point.
Yeah, that was my low. I hit rock bottom there, and I didn't. Then obviously that whole summer I never raced or nothing. And that fall, Nax approached me again and wanted to offer me a full ride, and still believed in me, and so I started again. And I told my mom that that ain't gonna hold up in court. I was under drugs on the hospital.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So you kind of overcome that. You get everything back going. You win the championship in '99 overall, and now you're kind of at that point where you're creeping up on the 4-stroke era, and really, like, you were, one of, if not the pioneer kind of that 4-stroke era. So tell us about that DRZ hybrid of yours. And I think, what was that, 2002 when you rode that?
Yes, I believe so. Tom Carlson, he's really the guy to give all the credit to, because he's the one that wanted to do it. He bought a DRZ 400 motorcycle, and I believe it was Lager that built the chassis. Was it Lager? I'm not for sure.
I think so. Lager. Yeah, I think so.
And, he stuck it in there and really wanted me to ride it. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to.
I was, when we were getting ready for this, I was reading some old articles about this 4-wheeler, right? And that was exactly what I read. Like, Doug had his doubts. Like, he didn't really want to ride this thing.
No, believe it or not, Tom didn't really have it ready till the first national.
Really? Okay.
And that was Itchicani, Georgia. There, it was our first one. Boy, I got on that thing, and I liked it, and it had really nice power. And I decided, I will run it. And that was when I made the decision. It was already at the first national.
Oh my goodness.
And I believe I won the first moto, and the second moto we had a problem with it. Something happened. But
I do believe that's what I read. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then it just started evolving, and I stuck with it then. And there were some times that I was pretty upset I did, because, we were working all the bugs out of it.
Of course.
But it really paid off, because Suzuki approached us then, because we were the first ones to do that,
Yep.
And then obviously the Z400 come out, and they wanted me to run for them. And a lot of people didn't know it was early, before 2004, that I had that, we didn't get a full factory ride till 04 when Suzuki announced it. But, in 03, they were helping us with Yoshimir, to keep going.
Of course.
And I knew it was coming, but nobody else did,
Right. Yeah. So, because that was kind of my next question in my mind. I'm thinking, so you're running this DRZ hybrid thing, and I'm like, that had to have some kind of connection with, you ending up with Suzuki for, really the remainder of your career. But,
yes.
That next year they come out with the Z400, and it was kind of a factory OEM variation of what you were riding previous to that. But even before that, like with Tom, what made that machine desirable to him?
I don't know why he was so. I think it's because Suzuki had that dirt bike, 4-stroke dirt bike out,
Okay.
And, you think about it, there really wasn't. I guess Yamaha had the 400 out too, but I don't know why exactly he chose that Suzuki, but he liked it. He thought it was a good motor. I remember him saying that. And yeah, he just boy, I'm glad he did what he did, because it started everything. And
Of
yeah,
course. Yeah.
he was awesome with that thing. He really, that was his baby.
Right. Oh, yeah. And like I said, that quad still to this day is like just legendary. I know I posted a picture of it weeks ago. Um, and yeah, like people still drool over that thing
Yeah.
to this day. It's crazy. So, and then, I mean, man, like you got on. So I guess I didn't know that there wasn't full factory effort in 2003. I didn't know that.
No.
Um,
But there was pro production class. I don't know if you remember that happening,
I
but
do. Yes.
we had a pro class, and then we had a pro production, and that's what we ran the Z400s. And Tim Fargot was running one too. I forget who else was in it, but that was the class, and we were limited to things to do to that machine.
Right. Yeah. Cause and it is funny that you say that, because there's pictures that you can find of a whole class of Z400s. It's crazy, and
Yes.
nobody remembers Tim Farr on a Suzuki. And
Yep.
yeah, like when you see some of those pictures and you and him dicing it up on Suzukis, it's kind of funny because they're rare, they're rare.
Yeah,
rare photos.
we had some good races, me and him, on that. We were dicing back and forth a lot.
I saw a couple of them too, where like you guys are stuck together, like, like stuck together in corners and
Yep.
pulling each other off of each other. So
we were so close, and the quads obviously were set up so close that we were just, neck and neck there. It was some good racing.
yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so 2003 and 2004, you won a bunch of races, you win championships both of those years. And so Factory Suzuki has that Z400, obviously, like we talked about. And so did you guys go through any difficulties with that quad? I mean, you were so successful. It's almost like that thing was ready to go from the start.
Yeah, no, it was a good machine. And, I still say to this day, Suzuki built one of the best, to just jump on and go, especially when the LTR 450 came out. But I know we did struggle a little bit with changing from a wet sump to a dry sump engine. I remember, and found out some issues with, to do that, because you're robbing some horsepower when you have a wet sump compared to a dry.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we learned as we went. And I think in 2004, they didn't have it was just one class then.
I think so too. Yep.
Yeah, because they changed it to one class. And then Honda, that's the year Honda had one out. But everybody had 450s, and I was still on the Suzuki 400, which obviously got bored and stroked.
Yep.
But that was a memorable year, because I basically won a championship on a Z400, and everybody else had a Honda 450 come out. And heck, I think was Can-Am out with their 450 then too?
I don't think, not quite yet, but you're exactly right, because you were on a Z400 against these new, because in 2004 there was Yamaha too. So Yamaha.
That's right. Yamaha, Honda, and Suzuki were out.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And they were 450s, the Honda and Yamahas.
Exactly. Yes. Well, the crazy part is, when I think of the Z400, is in like 2007 or 2008, that was a quad used in the schoolboy senior class. So at that point, it was a youth quad, like 3 or 4 years after you're racing it. That's unreal.
Wow.
It's unreal to me, because like you just said, in 2004 or 2005, you're racing a Z400 against these production 450s. And the pictures even are crazy now when you look back at them, because it's like seeing a Z400 ahead of those 450s.
Right.
Just crazy to me.
Yeah. No, that was a memorable year in 2004. And I actually had, my program was really good. That was the first year Suzuki had the factory ride with the 18-wheeler, and the whole works. And boy, did our program was good that year. We had it all together. We were on top of it, and I won a lot of races that year, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. From that 2003, 2004, I mean, you were dominant. And I believe I remember reading that you won either 6 or 7 in a row at one point. And I think
it was 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And the headline read, this is a record that's probably never going to be broken. And then when you think back that you were on a Z400, it's just, that's crazy to me,
Yep.
So that's unreal. And maybe in 2005, the Honda and the Yamaha, maybe they figured a little bit more out. Maybe you were at a little bit more of a disadvantage at that point. I don't know, but shortly thereafter comes, the LTR and those legendary Suzuki teams to follow. So I guess take me through, like, how much did you play a role in the development of that LTR?
Well, yeah. So in 2004, I was traveling. I believe I went twice to Japan. They brought me back there to help them design this LTR 450. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't really have me, it wasn't like power and this, that, but it was more like where the handlebars should be, location, foot pegs, comfortability, for the normal guy, because obviously we all know Japan guys are a little smaller than Americans. And they were very, they didn't want to make it wide. And that was one thing that I really pushed. I said, you need to make this thing right from the stock form wide. And they thought their thinking was, well, if we make it narrow, you Americans won't go so fast. I go, we're going to go fast no matter what. So you might as well make it wider so it's more stable,
Exactly. Yeah.
And I remember that was one thing that I really pushed. But they really, when I was there, they had this prototype LTR 450 setup that had like handlebars where you could click into different positions, as in up, down, forward, back and forth. They really had a design that, I would ride it in certain positions and say, this is the most comfortable. Same with the foot pegs. It was,
really?
You couldn't really thrash on it that hard, but it was awesome. They really did their homework that way. And it was, after riding, well, to tell you though, when I would go there and ride this thing, they didn't have the motor done. So they had a 400 in it still. So it wasn't that impressive to me because I was used to riding the ones back at home. And so it was different, but I knew the geometry of the four-wheeler was much better than the 400. And we worked out. I went there twice. And my boss, Rod Labuznak at the time, who was vice president of American Suzuki, he would go with me because, just to help me out with everything going on there. And he was a good mentor for me too, because if it wasn't for him, I don't think Suzuki would have been into races much, because he really pushed it.
Okay.
And I can remember the first year when we were a factory team in the first race, he invited the vice president, the president, Mr. Suzuki himself. I forgot what his name was at the time, but he brought him the race. No pressure, Digger, but he's sure you need to win. I'm like, oh, thanks. But luckily I did. It was in Florida because he was down there for bike week.
Okay.
We ran always that week too down there, but we ran at Gatorback, Gainesville, Florida. So I remember that race like, oh my God, he's putting the pressure on me. But luckily I won that one.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's crazy. That they didn't have even the LTR motor in there at that time, but thankfully you're adamant about that thing being wide. Cause those things came so well set up as far as they were like,
even the tires.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was just going to say they were kind of before their time almost, because still to this day, you got all these people riding Hondas and they still come just like they did back then, The Suzuki was ready to rip.
Yeah, they were wide. They had, the tires weren't awesome, but they were, the average guy could run on them and not have to change tires. They were radials that were shorter, 18-inch radials in the back. And you know what? They worked on a lot of conditions. Some hard pack tracks, no, but sand and other stuff, they were a good tire.
Absolutely. Good sand tire. And people still to this day run them as like a mud style setup tire. So, and then you got to have a lot of pride in having a lot of say in how that Quad Racer 450 ultimately was sold as, because you played a big role in kind of developing that thing. So that that ended up being like a really iconic and obviously successful for the rest of that whole decade four-wheeler. So to be a major part of that had to be pretty prideful for you, I would think.
Oh yes, I look back at my racing days and career, and yeah, I had my ups and downs, but I am just I lived the rock star lifestyle for a while, there, and I'm just grateful that everything worked out good for me and all my sponsors and everybody that helped me out. It was never ever forget it. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So you had been through at that point. You had been through the GNC days of doing MX and TT. You had also been through, like we talked about, the pro production and then the normal pro class deal. And then came kind of another split series basically with the rise of the WPSA. So what were your thoughts of, I guess, the WPSA at that time? Because, when you come in and you're throwing around the ESPN thing and all this stuff, it had to have almost been like it was too good to be true, because you were around long enough to see all the struggles of ATV racing and then kind of see it build up. And now you're part of Factory Suzuki, and now there's WPSA. So tell us about that.
Okay, yeah, that was really awesome. It was almost like having Supercross like they do for their bikes, because it got really good TV coverage. It was another series. They were, they never interfered with the nationals. And for us, for me, that's more win bonuses from Suzuki. So just a chance and another championship bonus,
Yep.
So it was really awesome. It was like being motocross, where you got two series, Supercross and outdoors. That's what it was like for us. And that series was really good. I'm really sad it went away, but boy, it paid good. Good TV exposure. It helped our sport tremendously.
Absolutely. When you can talk about having that mainstream coverage,
Yes.
when you can go to the OEMs or whatever and have that mainstream coverage, that's a game changer. But so WPSA was amazing as a whole. It is crazy. It is sad that it didn't last, but talk about, I mean, you won the inaugural WPSA Superquad Pro 450 title there. So talk about the battle you had with Dustin Wimmer, who ended up being your teammate. But at the time, I mean, he's a kid, right? So
I think he was 18 and I was 40 almost, or 39.
You're exactly right.
His dad.
You're exactly right. I posted about it today that you were 39 when you won that title. So talk about that battle that season with him.
That was a heck of a battle. He was a great competitor, and boy, it went down. It went down to the last race in New Jersey.
I thought so, because it was basically winner take all.
Yes, went down to last race, last moto.
Yes,
and Dustin gets the whole shot, and I was back in the pack, and I worked my way through and got to second, and I reeled him in, and I passed him, and he passed me back. He wasn't going to give up. But I got him at the end. I think I had just a little more stamina than him at the time. How, I don't know. He was so young. But I think when I passed him back the second time, it wrecked him. Mentally it wrecked him. And how much racing is mental.
Oh,
there,
of course. Yeah, of course.
So I think I wrecked him, and there was only a few laps to go, and I created enough lead then that he didn't get me back. But that was probably one of the most difficult races I ever had to win, and it was on the line. Title was on the line, and then of course he became my teammate afterwards, which was great. He was a great guy. Loved working with him. I learned a lot from him, as he probably did with me too. So
of course. Yeah. I remember watching that race, like the video coverage after, cause you can still find them on YouTube or whatever. And yeah, like even the commentators are screaming at the top of their lungs, because you're coming from the back. Dustin gets the whole shot, and I think like their feeling was Dustin's going to win this thing. You get all the way up to the front. Now you're dicing back and forth, and that was even as a fan one of those memories that you'll never forget. So. And you had raced like so many different eras of the sport, like you were racing Gary Denton, and then you're racing, all the guys you kind of came up with Shane Hitt and Tim Farr, and, then kind of that next, even the older guys like John Natale and whatever. And now you're racing these kids, so you had raced so many different eras. So as you got older, did it become like more difficult, or to race those up and coming kids, or was it like your age and your experience turned into your strength?
It was more difficult, but my age and experience did helped me because I was smarter. But the problem I was having is these kids weren't afraid to hit the ground. And
Right.
and it hurt too much at my age. And I could run their pace, but I couldn't run it comfortably, So I was to the point where, like, man, I run their pace and I could win, but I also could hit the ground and end my career for good. And it started to win. That part of it started to win where, you know what, I'm just going to ride comfortably, and it's not good enough to beat these guys no more. When Chad Weenan started getting up there, and I just that pace to me was too much. And that's, when I decided to end it too, it was probably the smart thing, because of course my mind, even to this day, I still can do it. I can go up there, but the body says no, so, but yes, it was tough at the end. And after I retired, I had a year or two that it's like I went through a midlife crisis, because I raced all my life.
Yeah.
And then seen a lot and did a lot, and it all to be over was really hard. But
yeah. I was
and backtracking to that WPSA, I ran the nationals that year too, and almost won that. But me and a couple of guys jumped on the yellow flag. I hate to bring this up, but I could have won both championships, but there was a discrepancy. And anyways, long story short, I didn't win. I come up a couple points short. And
just a couple. Yes.
Yeah. I won the WPSA, but such a heartbreak not to win the nationals.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because that would have been the year to do it. I won both. Then it would have been. But.
Exactly. And I remember back then thinking it was almost like a contingency plan. It didn't work out in the one. Thankfully, it worked out in the other one.
Right. Right.
So that was 06, 07. And it's funny, I want to cover all the stuff that you talked about there, but you could see in your results, even because you were always basically in the exact same spot, whether some days it was good enough to win, maybe not pushing that, I don't know, that little bit of an edge, but then, yes. I mean, you were always second, third, fourth, it was always, right. You were always right there. Even the days, like I said, some days you won, you still won a number of times over those years there. But, it was just, you could see you were just so consistent. It was crazy. So, you pick up your final win, ended up being in 2008, the final win of your illustrious career. That was at Pleasure Valley. And, do you remember that day? Does that day stand out to you at all? Or
oh yeah, if you find any pictures from there, you'll see I was almost off the quad. I had one arm, leg was off to the side, like I was showing off, but that's where I was on the edge again.
I posted that picture today. Actually,
did you?
And I mean, there was a crazy whoop section up that hill or something, right? I remember being there and that whole deal, and even for me, I remember thinking, Digger, he's 40 plus years old, and he's just winning these races against 5 or 6 different factory teams. And there was it seemed like there was 15 factory riders at the time, and same old Digger Doug is getting it done. So tell me about that day, if that stands out to you.
Yeah, that day does. Yeah, that was a very memorable day. I mean, I almost lost it in them whoops. I mean, if you look at the sequence of pictures they have, I mean, I don't know how to this day I saved it,
Right.
I guess I was a lot more limber then, but that was memorable. And, I fought hard for that. I believe the second moto, Dustin got out front, but it started to rain, and I was a little better mud rider than him, and he spun out, and that's what caused me to win. Then I think he made a mistake, and I capitalized on it for the second moto.
Gotcha. I remember too, because it was perfect for your riding style, because it was like an ice skating rink. Do you remember that? It got so slippery.
Hard slick.
And I remember watching you just ride the cushion around those corners, and it was perfect racetrack for you that day. So
yeah, I learned where to find traction, but I also did a lot of practicing at home when there was snow and ice and stuff.
Oh, exactly.
So I had some experience in it.
I remember we were, whatever class I was racing at the time, I think it was like my first year on a 450, but I remember being right around the pro class, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to be just like Digger, and same thing, riding in the snow and the ice up here. I'm like, this is our kind of racetrack right now. So,
yes,
so at the time, did you think, like, does it ever cross your mind, like, hey, this could be the last one? Or as a racer, maybe you never let your mind go there, but.
No, I didn't. In 2009 through my last year there, I actually still wanted to do it again. I really did. It was hard. It was hard for me to retire. It was hard for me to stop. I mean, it did help that Suzuki hired, I can't think of who that was at the time, but they ended up hiring another young rider and cut my salary way down. So that really helped make my decision, made it a lot easier, I should say. So maybe they did me a favor, because maybe I would have got hurt that year,
That must have been when they brought in Creamer, right?
Yes, Josh Creamer.
Yeah.
Yep. They brought in Josh Creamer, and I remember he rode basically for nothing. And I'm like, what are you doing?
He was on like a prove himself type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they figured, well, wow, I got this young guy riding for nothing. We can cut Digger's salary down. And I told Suzuki I didn't want to ride for that. I'd be done. So
I see. Yeah. Cause I got a couple questions about that era there, because, you had, like, all the years prior to that, you had, or the few prior, you had ended, top 3 in points. And I thought I remembered hearing at the time, I don't know if it was from you or somebody else or whatever, but I thought that top 3 was like an automatic re-up of your Suzuki deal. Was there any truth to that, or was that not?
No. I at the end, I had year-to-year contracts.
You did. Okay. Okay. Yep. So and I didn't know, because that was kind of the thought that I had. I thought I had heard that somewhere, that those top 3s were like, they'd automatically, re-up your deal. Well, I knew in 2009 there, your last season, you finished 4th. So I thought, I didn't know if that helped end it or whatever, but you had another great season, Doug. Like, you had 3 or 4 races at the end of the year where you got second, consecutively at all those races. So it's not that you couldn't do it.
Right.
That does make sense though, if they had Creamer coming in and doing it for dirt cheap.
Because I probably would have ran then in 2010. I know I would have, but when they cut my salary like that, I mean, they really tremendously cut my salary. And I thought, you know what, I haven't been winning that much, and I can't rely on win bonuses to, for my year salary. So, to live on. So I decided that, maybe this is a time I should end, and I was 41 at the time. So
we'll get right back to the show, but now a quick word from our sponsors.
And now, please stand up and make some noise for our title sponsor, CST Tires. CST Tires and their Pulse MXR tire have completely overtaken the ATV market. Used by Thomas Brown to clinch a 3rd straight Quad Cross of Nations title, by Nick Janusa as he dominated the Montreal Supercross, and myself, Cody Jansen, as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to a 2019 national championship in the junior 25 plus class. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics than the competition. Join the takeover or prepare to be beat by someone who did. CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. Check them out at csttires.com today.
Anybody that I've gotten to try them, I've heard nothing but positive things back.
We're proud to be Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. Why choose Yamaha? Look no further than Chad Wienen's 6 championships in the past 8 seasons aboard his Yamaha YFZ 450R. Not to mention, Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing, and their support of this podcast proves it. For the 2020 ATVMX season, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program will offer payout and prize opportunities, including the chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more information, head to YamahaOutdoors.com and follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability, as well as longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, or anywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com.
SSI Decals is a name that is synonymous with ATV racing and synonymous with success. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. After making number plates and decals for riders like Chad Whedon, the company quickly took off. Today, you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and, oh yeah, 6-time NHRA World Champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship-level graphics. SSI decals. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is brought to you in part by DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 chain. This patented X-ring chain boasts a steel alloy construction for reduced weight, increased strength, and a longer chain life, making it the optimal ATV racing chain. Pick up an ATV2 chain today at your local dealer or wherever DID chains are sold. Wherever you go, go with DID. We're pumped to bring on new partner, Namura Technologies. Since 2001, Namura has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Namura's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Namura's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com. Namura Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are also pleased to announce our partnership with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world, visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. We are also supported in part by Evans Waterless Powersports Coolant. The best powersports coolant on the market, Evans prevents overheating and boil over, so you never have to worry about harming your engine or having a premature end to your ride due to overheating, no matter what the condition. Designed for use in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles, and more, use what the pros use. Upgrade to Evans today.
The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes. DP has been dominating the ATV world for a while now by supporting riders like Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, Baldwin Motorsports, JB Racing, Root River, myself, and more in ATV motocross. In GNCC Racing, they have all of the top 15 XC1 pros using DP, including the likes of Walker Fowler, Jared McClure, Chris Borich, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, and more, not to mention Hunter Hart and the top 4 XC2 riders. These riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them consistently on the top of the podium. Available at dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or even message me for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has goodies that'll make you salivate. I trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high-quality, innovative parts to the market. Check them out today. Now back to the show.
But no, it was one of my hardest decisions to make. I still wanted to race, even with the cut salary, but what do you do?
I believe that, because I think you hear about that a lot of times in racing more than any other sport, because it's something that you do forever, so
Yes. Yeah.
when do you say it's time to walk away? And then when you do walk away, your whole life changes, because it's something that you literally, you work towards, or everything you eat, slept, and breathed was for that one goal. So midlife crisis is probably the right way to talk about it.
Yes, exactly. And I'll tell you what, when I retired, I stayed off a quad for a long time. And, when I would put on these fair races that you would come to and win, and I look at that, boy, did I want to race bad. Man, I should get my quad out here again.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But, I was bench racing, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, maybe if I practice a little, I'd be able to hang with them guys, but you guys were hauling the mail out there, and I knew it. But, I'm a racer. I wanted to compete with you.
Of course. Yeah. And it's funny the way people think of you, Doug, because when we've been posting these things the last couple of weeks, people are like, oh, if Doug was still riding, he'd still be right at the front, like talking about the pro class to this day. So your mind and all your fans' mind, they have the same image of you. So,
well, I tell you what, speaking of that, I usually make snow in the winter for snowcross guys, and I decided not to do it this year. So my fall has been I've been kind of bored. So I went down to Joe Bird's and rode dirt bikes. I brought my dirt bike down there because his weather's better in Tennessee, and he brought his quad out, and I couldn't resist. I'm like, let me ride that thing, Joe. So I actually rode a quad a couple of weeks ago, and boy, I rode the dirt bike probably 12 laps, probably, good pace. Didn't even hardly get out of breath. I took 4 laps on his quad. I couldn't breathe no more.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, cause I saw some pictures of you down there by Joe, and I was like thinking, what the hell is Digger doing down there now? Cause normally you're so busy. You normally don't give yourself any time to go do something like that.
So. Right. And this year, because I didn't do the snow, I had some time on my hands and went down there, and boy, it was great going down there and seeing all the quads he's got. And we worked on his track. He rented a dozer. I fixed it up for him a little bit. And I told him, I was looking at his track. I said, Joe, I said, are you crazy? You need to mow this track down. You don't need to get hurt no more. So I took and started rounding the jumps off and stuff. But no, we had a good time and talked about old times. And me and him used to hang out a lot before the factories got involved, and then they kind of wouldn't let us no more, because we always practiced together and pushed each other, and that's how we got as fast as we did, because we were pushing each other constantly. So
of course. Oh yeah. And even that friendship alone, like, I feel like the friendship that you guys had has been pretty well documented, and there's been some peaks and valleys. So, talk about that. Like, I feel like you guys had raced together for literally your entire career. So
yes, we did. And like I said, I would go down to Tennessee a lot in the winters and train with him. And Joe is, as you know, that guy is in shape. He pushes it. He always pushes the envelope. If you're going to do 50 push-ups, he'd tell you do 75.
Oh, I know. And,
but yeah, no, he was good for me, as I probably was for him. And we learned off each other. And boy, I'll tell you what, the Nerf bar companies had to love us, because when we practiced, we were constantly cutting the corner, banging in each other, sliding, wrecking Nerf bars, because we wanted to be in front.
Right. Right.
So, and I learned to ride with Joe like that. A lot of guys, didn't like the way Joe rode, but I was used to it because I practiced with them all the time.
Right.
So
exactly.
It didn't bother me. And then, when the factories got involved heavily, and in 2006, when the WPSA and I ran that series, and, they didn't want us training together no more because they were afraid we were going to swap secrets. And, it was different then. It was like, well, geez, I don't get to, go have fun with my buddy no more, but hey, it was a business then, this was our job. So
absolutely. That was, I think, well documented in, what was that movie called then? National Born Killers or whatever. And I remember either you or Joe bringing it up, like, yeah, we can't practice together anymore. And, so, yeah, but like you said, I think I assume things were a lot different then because, like you said, it was a business. And as factories kind of got involved, that ratcheted up the pressure. And I mean, yeah, like they kind of got to protect their investment at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to go down and practice with him. Well, no more. Now I'm going out to California and practicing on their test tracks or Glen Helen or something.
Exactly. So. Exactly. I mean, so you brought up Joe. So like, I guess before I even transition from that, is it weird now to like ride ATVs or ride anything and like try to take the racer out of your head? Like just go enjoy it. Is that tough?
Yeah, it is. And when I was down at Joe's, he did a couple laps. I got on the quad. I'm like, I'm going to do more laps than him. So it's still in me. And, yeah, it is tough. And I guess that's why I ride a dirt bike more now because I don't want to. I'm afraid if I get back on the quad, you're going to be seeing me line up on one of them nationals.
It's easy. Yeah, it's a little easier to be leisurely. Yeah, on a dirt bike.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, me and Joe, we had some really good times, practicing together and really learned off each other. And it was great that we could be competitors like that and still be friends, and not have no issues. So,
of course. So, I mean, like I said, you brought up Joe. So do you have like a competitor that stands out in your mind that was like the toughest to race against? I mean, maybe it was Joe, maybe it was somebody else, but does anybody stand out to you?
There's a bunch that stand out to me. I mean, Joe obviously is one of them. He was always in, I think, the best shape, but Joe is a big guy. So he struggled there because, he had to get more horsepower to pull his weight because he's just 6'5" or he's Bigfoot,
Right. Yeah.
But Tim Farr, he was so smart. Tim Farr could get starts. Tim Farr knew how to set his quad up, so, I had competitors that were different ways, were a struggle. Joe was because of in shape. Tim, he was just smart. John Natale, he was an Iron Man. That guy too was another one. And he could ride hard and fast and get good starts, so there was a bunch of them. And Dustin Wimmer come along, so, but I would say, I guess Joe, because I raced Joe for so long. So okay. Joe would have to be the one.
I think, I had a gut feeling that that's maybe where that was going to go. And and it could be, maybe it's the same question. Maybe it's the answer's him again, but do you have somebody, if I put you on the spot, like as far as who is your favorite guy to race against, or maybe you have a least favorite guy to race against? Does anybody stand out in that mind, or maybe Joe's the answer to them all?
Yeah, I would probably say Joe because we would battle so much together, but honestly, me and Joe didn't hardly, when it got to the racetrack, it just never worked out that we were battling, but there were probably a few times we were, but most of the time it just didn't work out. So, but yeah, I mean, but there was a lot of really good competitors out there that I really enjoyed racing against, and yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah. I like I said, I had a gut feeling that Joe might be the answer to some of those. So before we get too far away from it, when you talked about, kind of coming back each season as you were getting later in your career, because this is like something that is always interesting to me. So what motivated you to keep coming back?
I just wanted to win. I'm very competitive, and I still am. I can be sitting on the couch watching Supercross, and when that gate's about ready to drop, my hands on the throttle, ready to go, like I'm still there,
Okay, yeah.
And I might hit the guy next to me, and he's like, "What'd you do that for?" I just beat you off the gate because I moved first, But, no, and I really enjoyed riding quads, racing quads. To me, it was like, that was my, how can I word it? My relaxation, even though it's not relaxing, but it's put me in that other world stress. That was my stress reliever. Go out there and hucking a big jump and landing it good and just, riding 10 hard laps or a 30-minute moto as hard as I could and getting such a workout, that was that I just enjoyed that. That was my life then, So.
I think you're so right, because there's a reward that you kind of get from a rewarding feeling you get from exerting yourself and leaving all your everything you got out there. And that's something that you really don't get anywhere else in life. Like, there's obviously successes and you can kind of get your adrenaline rush or whatever, your satisfaction that way, but it's not like leaving it all on the racetrack. And also, when you talked about kind of ending, your racing career, well, for however many years did you do your motos at home at 12-2 or 12-3 or whatever?
Yep, 12-3. Yeah.
That was your daily process. So, I mean, it doesn't come as a surprise to me that transition into retirement was really, really tough.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Because that's what you did forever. So I just, that's crazy to me. So as we built the hype for this interview with you, so many people reached out to me wanting to know more about the Suzuki days, or just, have them talk about the Suzuki days. Cause that turned out to be such an iconic team and time period for ATV racing. Just, we touched on it a little bit, but talk about the dynamic underneath that tent with so many good riders. Like I said, it's got to be the most iconic team in ATV motocross. So what was it like to be alongside? I mean, it seemed like for so many years there of the LTR, the Suzuki was the champion and you were underneath the tent with those guys and you were winning races too. So talk about what it meant to be a part of that.
It was awesome. Like I was telling you before, I can't be grateful enough to all the guys that backed me and supported me. And, I know there was one year, I think it was Dustin Wimmer and Chan Whedon was under my tent, and to learn from them guys too, cause they were young guys coming up. It was a dream come true, having a factory ride like that. And, like we talked about before, the WPSA helped so much because it brought in these sponsors, Rockstar and Makita and, the energy drinks, Red Bull and that Monster, because of the TV coverage we were getting. It really was like, hey, I am living a Rockstar lifestyle right now. It don't get no better than this.
No, you're exactly right. And so I remember a story. I heard a story once. It was probably maybe the beginning half of your Suzuki days, where you were maybe still operating big equipment and excavating and stuff while you were still riding for Suzuki. And I had heard they put a kibosh on that and said no more. Are there any truth to that? Is that a true story?
Kind of. They, obviously they wanted me to focus more on racing. And what actually happened was when I signed a deal with Suzuki, I basically signed my rights over to them. That's how I did it. And they had me going all over the place, doing dealer shows, doing autograph sessions, testing. And my schedule was so filled with weekends or going here that we weren't racing, going there, going to this dealer, doing this, doing a commercial for Suzuki with the new quad. It got to the point where they didn't even have to really tell me. I just was like, well, I'm going to have to stop my business because I'm constantly gone. And the guys I had working for me didn't know the equipment like me. And it was tough to let them go. And I would hear the problems they were having. So I finally decided to pull the plug, and you know what? I can't run this business and not be there. I don't want my name to get bad back at home. So I shut it down.
Oh, I see. Okay. So one other story, speaking of rumors, kind of, so many people asked about this tale of you attempting Larocco's leap. Okay. Some people said that, they removed the fence for him to try and jump this thing. And other people said, no, he didn't try it on purpose. He just cased it and then he broke his back. So tell us about, if there is a story, tell us the story behind you attempting Larocco's leap.
Well, I I hate to burst the bubble, but I never believe I tried Larocco's leap. There was another triple jump
Okay.
that it's hard to explain where it is, but it's kind of,
It was on the other side of the track.
yes, on the other side of the track from Larocco's leap. And you came down a hill.
Yep.
And there was a triple, and then we used to do a right hand and go back over and do a double over a big culvert.
And those were big back then. Those were huge back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was that triple that I was doing that nobody was.
Yep.
And I did case it a little bit once, but I always saved it. But Travis Spader, forgot about him. He was another great competitor. He was the one that cased it, and he tore his Achilles tendon then. And
okay.
Yeah, that was the guy that did. But I think it was just me and him. Nobody else even tried it.
Okay. Yeah, and I remember those doubles and that triple over there back then. That would have been like early 2000s ish, right?
Yep.
And those were so big, and I was a little kid then, and they looked extra big. But as I was getting ready for this, and there's like these stories, it's just gaining momentum about you trying Larocco's leap, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you didn't try Larocco's leap.
Yeah.
But
No.
I was like, I'll let him tell the story. So
people mistake that for Larocco's leap. That's probably how it goes.
Right. And I don't want to discredit. I mean, that was a huge jump back then, like huge. But it wasn't Larocco's. So
no.
Yeah, because somebody's like, yeah, well, where's the video? And I'm like, yeah, like there'd be video if Doug would have tried Larocco's.
Right. Exactly. That's a big jump. Especially now, if you've been there lately.
Oh gosh, yeah. So, so you basically we talked about it. You raced through so many different eras. I'd be curious to ask you, like, if you have a favorite. Do you have a favorite? Because you basically up until 2010, you had raced literally everybody that's ever raced ATV motocross. So, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I'm obviously I'm gonna pick, the Suzuki era, 2004, 5, 6, winning a lot of races. But I gotta say, back in the day when I was racing Gary Denton, he's a 7-time champion in a row.
Yep.
Or did he make 8? No, he made
8.
7.
No, he made 8.
Did he make 8? Okay, yep, 8. He was that guy. He wasn't the fastest always, but he was the smartest, had the best equipment. And boy, he was tough to beat, and that was my goal back then, is I'm beating Gary Denton. I lived, eat, slept Gary Denton, and it was, he was the guy, he was the man. So that started my drive, I think, to beat him, but now I'd have to say my favorite though was in the Suzuki days of 04, 05, 06, right in there,
I figured so. I had to ask because there's just so few of you that raced for that duration of time. You could count on one hand. So I needed to ask. And talking about the different periods you raced through, there's parties now today that would like to see hybrids introduced back into the pro class. And you kind of lived through that. You were, kind of when we talked about starting the 4-stroke era there. You were obviously right at the heart of that hybrid era. I kind of have a pretty passionate opinion on that, because I think it'll price a certain amount, a good amount of people out of the sport nowadays. But do you have any insight or opinion after living through that hybrid era? Do you think that's something that should happen again, or would you steer people away from that?
I would say no, because like you said, it's going to cost too much money for some people, that, because then it's going to be about who can spend the most money, and that's why I like the factory stuff, because, it limits people. And honestly, I think they should go back to stock or pro production if the factories would come out with something, but yeah, you do that hybrid class, and boy, the price of quads just doubled.
You're exactly right. See, now how it works. It's not just in our sport, but it's in life, where time passes and you get like an infatuation with things of the past, right? Well, people to this day are infatuated with that hybrid era because some of those quads were so cool. Your TC powered, the 400, included, but exactly. Like you will literally, so I was a mid-pack pro, right? And there's no way I could have done the pro class thing and tried to afford these $30,000, $40,000 four-wheelers and had multiple of them, and then had all the money to chase the whole series. So I wanted your insight because you're the first person I've had on the show that was part of the last hybrid era. And I knew that you'd have some valuable insight there. So
it started back in the Gary Denton day, because here's a guy, that's won some championships and, 89, 90, 91, 92, there was nothing hardly going, but he comes out with these aftermarket arms now. And then all of a sudden these aftermarket Lager frames, and boy, who can afford that?
Right.
And he could, and he had the sponsors, and he was a hard guy to beat because he had the best equipment too. I mean, I'm not taking nothing against, he was a good rider, but you're racing against somebody with a big pocket then too,
Right. Yeah. And that's the one thing, because like you just talked about, whether it was, when you guys were doing the pro production or whatever, now they have a class that's basically all Yamahas, but very similar where they're basically running stock machines. I just don't want somebody's pocketbook to be able to win them, races. And in some classes,
I agree.
Right. I mean, that's spec style racing where everybody's kind of on a very similar machine. I just always thought that was a really cool concept. And I hate to see them go away from that even farther.
I agree.
So, so do you have a favorite memory racing? That's another question that I got a bunch of, and I'm sure that that's very hard to pinpoint, but
yeah, it is, but I'm going to have to say probably my 06 championship against Dustin Wimmer had to be my most memorable because it came down to the last race, last couple laps. So
okay. Yeah. When we get done, Doug, have Halie or somebody show you on our Instagram, because we've been posting some of these pictures, and there's a picture from that day with your hand in the air, and you must kind of be, there's the crowd and that, those grandstands right there, and it's like an iconic shot. I feel like it's just like, and honestly, there were some people commenting on there, people that were part of maybe Josh Creamer's Team Kawasaki efforts and those years and stuff, that said it was like Tom Brady, that watching Tom Brady back then was like watching you, because it was like you found other people's weaknesses and you broke them down. And that was the one thing that we haven't mentioned here, is the one thing that always stood out to me was how you would follow somebody and you'd find a weakness and then you'd run in a line, right? You'd run in a line. So later in the race, you had this line that only you were going to use and you were going to use it against them. And that's just some of that racecraft, I think, is somewhat lost in this day and age, because people just want to get aggressive or whatever. And those efforts that you had then are just, they're legendary to me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of practice, a lot of handlebar time, I call it.
Right. But yeah, and the other thing too that stands out to me about your career, and we've covered it all, but is the fact that, I mean, the most amazing part, the best chapter of your career came at the very end, with Suzuki. And how, I mean, you said how grateful you are up and down, but how rare is it that your very best years are right to the end? I just think that that's amazing. You were a 40-year-old athlete racing against kids half your age, and that was the highlight of your career. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I like I said before, I'm grateful for it. I stayed healthy, but I got really smart, and it just sucks that you have this thing called too many birthdays, TMBs, and your body doesn't, but I learned so much. And I learned how to train, and I learned how to train right. And I learned when I needed to take a break and how much time to give my body off and not overtrain, and how to eat right and how to break down a competitor, and it just really sucked that, oh, geez, I'm getting too old to do this now that I'm finally figuring it out.
Right. And another aspect too, I feel like, is when you have more things going on in life, racing kind of becomes your vice almost, where when you're younger, you have these kids that just eat, sleep, and breathe it to a point where they almost burn out. Well, you get a little older, and now it's like that's the one thing that keeps you young. It's like the one place that you're free and the stresses of the world aren't there because you're on your four-wheeler. And it's just funny how perception in life changes.
Yes, it is. It is. And you're exactly right there. It is. I mean, when you're young like that, that's all you do. But then you got to find something else later. And then this racing becomes, wow, I want to do this. This is my outlet right here.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So tell people, Doug, like what your day-to-day life is now. I know the crop dusting is a big part of your life, obviously nowadays, not necessarily this time of year, but, and you're not doing the UTV stuff and the snowmobile stuff as much, right, anymore?
Right. After I retired racing, in 2010, I actually started flying a crop duster for a guy and, started my crop dusting career. And that's a good adrenaline rush. Obviously, people that don't know what it's about, but you're diving for the ground at 140, 150, sometimes 170 mile an hour,
right?
And over wires and pulling up over trees. And you know, when you fly an airplane commercially and you're up so high, it don't even look like you're moving. But when you're 5 feet above the corn, you're hauling ass, and you don't have time to blink because you don't want to miss nothing. You know, so
right.
It definitely is an adrenaline rush to me, and I enjoy flying airplanes, controlling a machine that you have your own life in your own hands, just like racing. You know, you can control what you're going to do, you know, and if you screw up, that's your own fault, you know. But yeah, so that has definitely been my life since I retired racing, and it makes me smile, and it still does. I can't wait till the season starts next spring. But yeah, my life now, I play around on side-by-sides, race them once in a while. Dirt bikes, I play around, practice, but I haven't gone racing any. And now that I've been down to Joe's, I want to buy a stock Yamaha and practice with them down there just to have fun again and bang into them, you know.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, you can't, as much as I'm glad that you got something that gives you that adrenaline rush and keeps you young. I mean, we all need that, but yeah, there's nothing that really replaces, you know, kind of being on the racetrack, you know?
Yep, exactly. And I play with snowmobiles the past few years and do a little racing at my place, but we're not doing it this year anymore. So, and I'm missing it already. But I know, you know what? I just go down and ride at Joe's because it's usually a lot warmer down in Tennessee than here. So.
Right, of course. So, Doug, how closely do you follow the ATV motocross today? You know, I saw you at Crawfordsville, but how close do you follow it?
I don't. In the summertime, I'm busy with my business, so I don't get to watch it. But I record them and try to follow up and you know, if something misses or not, I'll ask somebody, and you know, and me and TC talk a lot. Hey, who won last week? And, you know, so I follow it. And at first it was hard because I really want to just walk away so I could forget about it, you know, but you can't.
Of course.
But the first couple of years, I'd say I didn't even pay attention because I didn't want to know, you know. But now I'm, you know, I always sneak check in who won, what's going on, you know, and try to get online and find out and see some pictures or videos, you know. So
of course. So yeah, I mean, people have asked me if you'd ever show up and race like a vet race, or if you have any desire to do something like that. Now, I know a few years ago you showed up at one of the local races and raced somebody else's quad in a vet race, but is that something you could ever see yourself doing, is showing up at a Red Bud or a Walnut or something like that and racing?
Yeah. Yes. I just talked to Joe about it, but I don't know. I thought he said something about there might be a rule that if you're a pro, you know, with this, you can't go to an amateur class. You know, I wouldn't be able to run. I don't know. Is that true? Or
so I have heard that, and I know that was something that, because the stipulation, Doug, is a pro champion, which obviously you and Joe both are. But I gotta believe after a certain amount of time that, I mean, how can they keep you from racing a vet race? So I don't know that, but I mean, if we can do some lobbying for you, if that's something that you want to do.
Well, to answer your question, yes, I definitely could see myself doing it. And I'm getting to the point now where I want to do it. We're like, man, if I can, I would. And I raced the quad for a guy. He let me run, and it was kind of weird because I hadn't rode a quad in years. And then here I show up at this race, cold turkey throws me on it, and I raced the vet class. And boy, I struggled. I was out of shape and really rusty, and there was some big jumps there.
Yeah, there was, but it was so funny because it was like you were still in your Makita Suzuki gear, you know, from the years prior, and then it's like you plucked. It was like you plucked the 2008, 2009 Digger Dog right out of the memory bank, and then put them on somebody random's TRX 450R like 8 years later or whatever it is. It was just kind of funny, but it was awesome to see you back on the racetrack, because even though you were rusty and even though you probably didn't feel like yourself, your riding style and everything was still the Doug Gust that I remembered.
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely had fun.
So yeah, that's cool. Now you're going to have all kinds of people talking about hoping that you're going to show up at a race. Maybe we can get your four-wheeler there and you can do your patented flyover and fly in and race, and then you can then you can split in typical Digger Dug fashion.
Right. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to do that again.
So before I let you go, so two questions we always kind of try to ask everybody is about your racing number. Where did the number 55 come from?
Sammy Hagar, I Can't Drive 55 used to be my best song.
Song
when I was younger.
Oh my gosh, that makes it so much better.
Yes. And I still listen to that song. It's a good song.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Maybe I'm stuck in the 80s still, but oh well.
That's the best story that we've heard about a number so far. And the other one is, as far as like a legacy goes, you have such a great following still to this day, but how do you want to be remembered by fans of the sport?
Boy, that's a tough question, but
or before I let you finish, I guess for all your fans out there, because you're, I don't know how to say it, but you're as beloved today, if not more than you used to be. Like, people love you still to this day, even though you've been away for a decade. So whether it's how you want to be remembered, or if you have a message for those fans, just let them know how you feel, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I could say I would like to be remembered as a guy that persevered, because I went through a lot through the racing career, you know. And to those that are upcoming, you know, if you got your heart set on something, you need to really, you know, train hard and put all your time or all your heart into something, and it will pay off for you. And that's the advice I would give them. And that's kind of how my career was. You know, I never was the guy out front all the time. I always had to work for it. You know, I wasn't a guy that I just was, you know, and some people are probably going to laugh when I tell them this, but I wasn't talented. You know, I wasn't a guy that just happened to be, man, he's got it easy. No, I had to work hard for it, you know, and that's what paid off for me.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how I even remembered you. And that, you know, my best memories of you are all through your Suzuki era, but it was just like, you were the working class hero. You know, you were just chopping wood, chopping. And yeah, I mean, some of my memories of, you know, being on my blaster and going down and riding by you guys. And then, I mean, those are some of my fondest memories in racing as a whole, and how well you always treated us. And it was just like, it was so crazy to me, because, you know, you were my favorite rider of all time. And it was like, you talked to me just like you were talking to somebody that was on your level. And I always thought that was so cool. So,
and people, I tell people, you know what, just because I can ride a quad a little better than somebody else, I'm no different than you. I still put my pants on the same way and brush my teeth, you know. And I guess if I was to say too something that I would tell people is just never give up. If you have a dream, never give up. Just keep trying, you know.
And everything you said, I mean, about persevering and never giving up, I mean, that's stuff that doesn't translate just to our sport, but that translates to life. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Doug, I mean, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, because
Yes.
to give you an avenue to talk about all these memories and old times. I just people are really going to enjoy this. So you're an absolute living legend. Like I said, you're my favorite rider of all time, and I just can't thank you enough for your time and doing this with me.
Well, thank you. It sure brought up some memories that were way back in the bank there, that were awesome, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, Doug, it's been a pleasure. ATV racing wouldn't be the same without you. People, like I said, are going to enjoy this. And again, just so thankful for your time, and thank you to Halie too for setting all this up. You're grateful to call you a friend of mine, and grateful to call you a friend of the show.
Thank you very much.
Man, there goes my hero. Huge thanks to Doug for his time and willingness to sit down with us, and thanks as well to Halie Hart for the scheduling, setting up, and overall making this happen. It was months in the making and wouldn't have been possible without her. Thanks to my producer, my brother Dallas, for sitting here next to me and pushing all the buttons for the podcast. I couldn't do it without you, D. Thanks to our sponsors, CST Tires, Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew, Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nemura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Blenders Eyewear, Mountaineer Brand, and Oats Overnight. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. If you enjoy the show, we encourage you to support us via Patreon if it suits you. Simply visit our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, and click the Support on Patreon button. This contribution will help prompt continued growth and improvement of the show. Perks will be available to those who contribute, including hearing your name on the podcast. We greatly appreciate the support. Also, remember, you can always call us with your questions, concerns, and suggested topics, and more. This is your chance to be a part of the show by calling our voicemail line anytime. Call us today at 920-569-3519. That number is 920-569-3519. We got some good voicemails of late here, and I promise to get to those on the next episode. We look forward to hearing from you. We have Jeffrey Rastrelli, John Natale, Cody Gibson, Gary Denton, and more on the upcoming schedule, so needless to say, you won't want to miss our upcoming episodes. The best way to ensure you won't miss a thing is to subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional behind-the-scenes content. Thanks as always for listening. I hope you enjoyed this very special episode as much as I did. We're doing 40 to 50,000 unique listeners at this point and growing, so you guys are absolutely amazing. Keep that support coming. I love the screenshots showing that you're listening. Send those in, and I promise to keep sharing them. And again, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, tell your friends, share our posts. It all helps spread word about the show and promote growth for the sport that we all love. With that, for Doug Gust, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen, thanks for listening, and until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross.